How do you go from being a soldier to being called a baby killer? Or from a student to being shot by your own government? That's what happened during the Vietnam War and why opposition in the USA exploded between 1964 to 75. So young Americans weren't just rebelling against their parents, they were rebelling against the war. In the late 1960s, the rise of counterculture meant rejecting traditional values, fighting racism and demanding peace. Groups like Students for a Democratic Society organised teach-ins and mass protests. By 1970, student numbers had hit 8.5 million and many joined the anti-war movement. A new group, Vietnam Veterans Against the War, was formed in 1967. These were ex-soldiers protesting the war they'd just fought in. Some even threw their medals on the steps of Congress. The media also had a massive influence. It was the first war shown on TV. Journalists travelled with troops, filming the fighting and, more importantly, the suffering. Every night, Americans watched the war from their living rooms, burned villages, injured children, body bags coming home. So in Vietnam, the nickname the Living Room War. The media didn't just show the fighting, they exposed the truth. That often meant contradicting the government's claims, so trust in politicians collapsed and public opinion turned. So let's talk about the draft. From 1966, all men aged 18 to 25 had to register for military service. Poorer men and African Americans were called up in higher numbers, while wealthier white men avoided it. This is often by going to university or even fleeing to Canada. Some men were chosen for the draft not just at random, but because they'd been labelled as delinquents, like being in trouble with the police. By 1969, a lottery system replaced this, but didn't fix the problem. 650,000 of the 2.6 million US soldiers were draftees. And burning your draft card, well, that was a crime, but people did it anyway. Then came My Lai. On March 16, 1968, US troops killed over 347 civilians in a village they thought was full of Viet Cong. Most victims were women, children and elderly men. Ron Haberly, an army photographer, took photos that were later published. The government tried to hide it, but when the photos reached CBS in 1969, the public was outraged. And in May 1970, at Kent State University, students protesting Nixon's invasion of Cambodia were met by National Guard troops. Fired 67 rounds in 13 seconds and 4 students were killed. 2 of them weren't even involved in the protest. So the Vietnam War ripped America apart. Veterans returning home were often shamed instead of celebrated, and many suffered from PTSD or became homeless. Some were called baby killers, and suicide rates among veterans soared. By the end of the war in 1975, the US government's reputation was in ruins. Vietnam had fallen to communism anyway after years of death, division and debt. For many, the war seemed pointless, and it permanently changed how Americans saw their leaders. Opposition to the Vietnam War wasn't just about peace, it was about gaining truth, fairness and trust. Like, share and follow Revise More History for more GCSE, USA, home and abroad tips.